Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at social media
Okay.
and
Sounds good.
specifically its impact.
Mm.
So we're going to be diving deep into a podcast episode called The Truth About Social Media, Use and Side Effects.
Right.
And we're going to kind of pick apart what they have to say about social media.
Okay.
So for those of you who are maybe prepping for a meeting about social media,
Yeah.
or maybe even writing a paper, or you're just generally interested in this topic,
Yeah.
this is the episode for you.
Okay.
So one of the really interesting things
Right.
that this podcast episode talks about is how social media platforms
Okay.
are actually designed to be addictive. Like they're engineered for addiction.
Oh, that's interesting.
We're going to get into how they do that
Yeah.
and what you can do about it. But first,
Okay.
let's talk about the good stuff.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because social media has definitely revolutionized the way we communicate. The podcast guest talked about how it's created instant global connection.
Yeah.
All these opportunities for businesses to grow online.
Yeah. It's really changed everything.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world out there.
It is. It's like if we think back to other communication shifts throughout history, like the printing press, the telegraph, each of those really revolutionize how we connect with each other.
Yeah.
And social media is just the latest one in that line.
It's just the newest tool.
It is. And like any tool, it really depends on how we use it.
That's right. But then the podcast also explores like the darker side of social media. So like how excessive use can lead to things like anxiety and depression and loneliness.
Oh, yeah.
And they talked about how like social comparison and these unrealistic expectations that we see online can really contribute to that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that too is just how these platforms are designed. They're designed to get us hooked.
Right.
So, it's those dopamine triggers from the likes and the notifications and then just that endless scroll, You just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
Yeah. Have you ever caught yourself like doing that?
Oh, all the time.
Even when you know you should be doing something else?
Yeah, definitely.
It's like my brain is on autopilot sometimes.
I know. It's like it's designed to keep us engaged and keep us coming back for more.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of misinformation.
Oh, right.
The podcast guest was talking about how fake news spreads so quickly online.
It does. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. And then like they even mentioned how algorithms often prioritize engagement over accuracy.
Yeah.
Which can be a problem.
Yeah, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, because that just creates like a breeding ground for false information.
Right. It's like a vicious cycle almost.
It is. Yeah. And that's where I think you get into those filter bubbles and echo chambers.
Yeah. Where you're just surrounded by people who agree with you.
Right.
And you're not really exposed to different perspectives.
Yeah. And it's like you're not even aware of it happening sometimes.
Exactly. And that can really affect how we think critically and make informed decisions.
It's like we're being subtly manipulated without even realizing it.
It's scary.
It's scary. We can't forget about cyberbullying either.
Right.
The podcast guest was really concerned about the impact that it can have, especially on young people.
Especially on young people,
It's just such a pervasive problem.
It is, and it's something that we really need to be talking about more.
It's tough to address though, right?
It is, but I think the first step is awareness.
Yeah.
We need to equip ourselves, and especially younger generations, with those tools to navigate the online world safely and responsibly.
So digital literacy
Yes.
and critical thinking are super important.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about avoiding social media altogether.
That's right.
It's about using it in a way that's positive.
Yeah, in a way that empowers us rather than diminishes us.
Exactly. The podcast had some really good tips for doing that.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Like setting boundaries was a big one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like using apps like Screen Time to limit how much you're using it.
Yeah.
Or even just like unfollowing accounts that leave you feeling negative.
That's a good one.
Or drained.
Yeah, totally.
I think those are great starting points.
They are.
But what I found really interesting was the idea of a digital detox.
Oh, yeah.
Like completely stepping away from social media for a bit. It can be so refreshing.
It's like hitting a reset button.
It is. It gives you space to like reconnect with yourself with the real world.
Exactly. Instead of constantly comparing yourself to those like curated online lives.
Right. It's like you can appreciate the present moment more. It's so easy to get caught up in that whirlwind of social media and lose sight of what really matters.
It is, yeah.
But it sounds like we actually have a choice.
We do.
Like, we can be intentional about how we use it.
Exactly.
We can set boundaries, and we can actually cultivate a healthier relationship.
Absolutely.
With these platforms.
It's about taking back control.
It is.
Your power, your time, your attention.
Reclaiming your power.
Yeah, recognizing that it's a tool.
It is a tool.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Yeah.
It's up to us.
The choice is ours.
It is.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
So I think this is a perfect segue into the next part of our discussion.
Okay.
Where we're going to look at social media's impact on society as a whole.
All right. Sounds good.
How is it shaping our culture, our politics, our sense of community?
Yeah. That's a big question.
It's a big one. We'll explore that after a quick break. So we've talked about some of the downsides of social media, like addiction and misinformation.
Right.
But let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
What about its impact on society as a whole?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It feels like it's woven into everything these days.
It really is.
One thing the podcast brought up was how social media can be this powerful force for social change.
Interesting.
Like, it can be a catalyst for movements, and it can help shine a light on important issues.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, think about how fast information spreads now.
Right.
It's incredible.
It can be really powerful for raising awareness.
Yeah, and mobilizing people.
Exactly.
But it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because the same tools that can connect and empower us can also be used to spread misinformation and division.
Right. It goes back to that idea of technology being a tool.
Yeah.
It's not inherently good or bad. It's how we use it.
That's what determines its impact.
It's that.
And that's where things get tricky.
Because we're seeing how these platforms can be used to manipulate people, to amplify extreme views, and even to incite violence.
That's right. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, the potential for polarization is huge.
It is. It's a challenge to democracy itself, really.
It can feel kind of overwhelming, to be honest.
I know. What do we do?
The podcast guest talked about media literacy and critical thinking skills. But is that enough?
Well, I think it's a starting point.
Yeah.
We need to be more careful about what we're reading and sharing online.
Right.
We need to think about the sources, question things, recognize bias and propaganda.
It's a lot of work.
It is, but it's important.
Okay, so it's not just about consuming information carefully.
Right.
It's about how we participate in these online conversations.
Yeah, I think that's key too.
So fostering empathy and understanding.
Exactly.
Recognizing that there are different perspectives out there.
And that's okay.
Yeah, even if we don't agree with them. But it feels like it needs to be a collective effort, right?
I think so.
Like, platforms need to take responsibility.
Yeah, for their algorithms.
Yeah, for the content they're promoting. And policymakers need to step up too.
Absolutely.
And address the ethical implications of this technology.
It's a huge issue.
Yeah, it's complex.
It is.
So it's not as simple as just deleting our accounts or going off the grid.
Yeah, we need to find that balance.
Yeah.
Be intentional with how we use these platforms and demand more from the companies that create them.
And the institutions that shape our online experiences.
Exactly.
So ultimately, it's about remembering that even in this digital world, human connection, community, and shared values,
those are the things that matter.
They should guide how we interact with each other.
Both online and offline.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So before we move on
and
talk about what you, the listener, can do with all of this.
Right.
Let's pause for a second and let all of this sink in.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
Like the addictive nature of social media and its impact on society as a whole.
Yeah, we talked about a lot.
But through it all, it seems like we've been saying that we're not powerless.
Right. We have choices.
We have choices. We can make actions we can take.
Exactly.
So let's bring it back to you, the listener.
Yeah.
How does all this resonate with you?
Yeah. What's sticking with you?
What are your takeaways from our conversation?
Are you thinking back to all those times you were just scrolling and scrolling?
Yeah. Or maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by all the information out there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
The podcast guest had some good tips, like using apps to track your screen time.
Right.
Or unfollowing accounts that bring you down.
Yeah, just little things you can do.
Yeah, sometimes it's those small choices that can make a big difference.
They really can.
So think about it. What's one account you could unfollow today that would make your feed a little bit more positive?
Yeah, you don't need that negativity.
And then there's a digital detox idea.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Right.
Even a few hours or a day can make a difference.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Totally. You can reconnect with yourself and the real world around you.
And it gives you that space to think critically about the information you're seeing.
That's right. Don't just passively absorb everything.
Yeah, question the sources.
Look for different viewpoints.
Be aware of those algorithms.
It's like we're all detectives now.
We are.
We have to be constantly evaluating and analyzing.
Right. And remember, this isn't just about you.
It's about everyone.
Exactly. It's about creating a better online world for all of us.
So we need to hold these platforms accountable, demand more transparency,
yes,
and work together to make it a more positive space.
It's team effort.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
Social media is a tool.
It is?
Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
The choice is yours.
You have the power.
You have the power to control your experience.
To set boundaries.
To use these platforms in a way that reflects your values.
Make it work for you.
So what's one small change you can make today to take back your social media power?
Maybe it's setting a time limit.
Maybe it's unfollowing that negative account.
Maybe it's talking to someone.
Yeah, about digital well-being.
Just one small step.
Whatever it is, embrace that change. It's a step towards a healthier and more empowered relationship with the digital world.
You got this.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been fun.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected in a way that serves you best.